We've got some breaking news to bring you.
Let's get to Manchester United. They're in the market for a number of positions, aren't they, when the transfer window opens in the summer? I will pick up on Lewis Hall in just a minute with you, but I just want to talk to you, Alan, firstly. Does it feel like Manchester United are back at the top table, or indeed did they ever leave, but they've got a bit more bargaining power to get in the best players?
They definitely left the top table for a period. There's no doubt about that. Even with the history that they had, it was looking like, you know, they was on a downward spiral. I mean, when Amorim left, to say, if they'd have asked me to go in there and say, you know, you've got to get us Champions League football, I said, I think that's highly unlikely with what I've got here. Michael Carrick has done an unbelievable job. And Steve in there, the coach, they've done they've got that turned around. They've had tremendous results. And Michael will be feeling it now. And just listening to those transfer rumours, will he be part of the conversation? I'm guessing he will be because of the success he's had. If he hadn't had success, he might not have been part of those conversations. So if he's got gets his hands and paws on the decision, I would suggest you would look for somebody perhaps like himself, which would make sense. Yeah. Because that creative, cultural kind of player that he was, first touch, opening up the pitch, etc., will be massively important for United. I see them Friday night, and Manu and Casemiro were excellent. I'm not exactly sure what Manu is at the moment. I think he's still trying to find his way. But if you looked at a couple of them options there, Tonali for sure would get in that team. But he'd get in that team as a number 8. Anderson, I slightly disagree with the reporter there in that I think he's a 6. He's the top interceptor in the Premier League by some distance. He reads the game so well. He was brilliant for Spurs on Sunday. So, you know, they are the type of players that would fit that Man United model. With Casemiro going, there's an opportunity for somebody, and I'm just so really proud of Michael and what he's done there. It's remarkable, the position they're in with 8 games to go, or 7, whatever it is. Yeah, and that. Sorry, go on.
If there was ever a question about Manchester United's pulling power, it was answered last summer. I mean, I'm obviously talking about Newcastle because I feel like I'm qualified to talk about it. They went for Brian Mbeumo. He chose Manchester United. They liked Matthias Cunha. He went to Manchester United. They got all the way down the line with Benjamin Sesko. He went to Manchester United without Champions League football, and Newcastle had that. So they still do have that pulling power. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do this summer when they potentially have Champions League football in the locker as well. And it's amazing to see all these players, young players, you know, who Manchester United might not have been we thought might not have been a huge thing for them as it came through the ranks. Clearly they are, and that is why they chose to go there last summer, and they're probably going to get Champions League football next season. Well,
probably. It looks nailed on, doesn't it? Because the other teams don't seem to want it. With all the defeats that Liverpool and Chelsea are picking up, they look nailed on for third place, don't they, in Champions League?
Man United are always going to be top of an agenda because of the status of the football club. But that doesn't mean to say that if they hadn't made Champions League football, that would slowly dissipate, and it would. It would. And as we've seen with Leeds United, you know, what has happened to them over the years when they were so close to winning the Premier League, etc., etc. I think Man United have got themselves in an excellent position. I don't think the Newcastle players, and I think Eddie's been quite strong about defending Gomes and Tonali in particular, because I'm not sure that transfer would be possible. I think Newcastle got the financial power to hold off, but it'd be interesting.
Manchester United's transfer strategy is beginning to take a defined shape as the club prepares for what is expected to be a return to European competition next season. After a campaign that exposed inconsistencies particularly in midfield, the focus has shifted toward building a more dynamic, balanced, and future-ready squad. At the heart of that plan lies a clear objective: reinforce the midfield with energy, athleticism, and tactical intelligence. Among the names under consideration are Lewis Hall, Yan Diomande, and Iliman Ndiaye, players who represent versatility, creativity, and long-term potential. Hall's ability to operate across multiple roles offers tactical flexibility, while Ndiaye brings attacking flair and unpredictability. Diomande, though less established, reflects United's growing interest in emerging talents who can be developed into key contributors. This is not a list built on superstardom, but on profile fit and adaptability, a sign of a more modern recruitment approach. More than any other area, midfield remains United's top priority. The club is aiming to secure at least 2 new midfielders in the upcoming window, underlining the need for both depth and quality. 2 names stand out prominently: Carlos Baleba of Brighton and Hove Albion. Elliot Anderson of Nottingham Forest. Both players bring attributes that United currently lack: mobility, ball-carrying ability, and defensive intensity. Their profiles suggest a desire to transition toward a more energetic and progressive midfield unit capable of competing at a higher level. Baleba's situation is particularly intriguing. Last summer, a move to Old Trafford failed to materialise, largely due to Brighton's firm stance on valuation. Known for their strong negotiating position, Brighton have historically demanded premium fees for their top assets. However, a dip in Baleba's performances this season may have shifted the landscape. While he remains highly rated, his market value is no longer at its peak, potentially opening the door for renewed negotiations. For Manchester United, this represents a strategic opportunity: secure a high-potential midfielder at a more favourable price point. What stands out most about United's approach is the clear evolution in thinking. Rather than pursuing marquee names, the club appears focused on players who fit a defined tactical system, individuals entering or approaching their peak years, profiles that offer both immediate impact and long-term value. Targets like Anderson and Baleba are not just signings, they are building blocks. A return to European competition brings with it increased intensity, fixture congestion, and tactical demands. United's current squad has, at times, struggled to cope with these pressures. Manchester United's summer window is shaping up to be less about headline-grabbing deals and more about strategic transformation. With a focus on players like Lewis Hall, Carlos Baleba, and Elliot Anderson, the club is signaling a commitment to evolution, one built on energy, intelligence, and long-term planning. If executed effectively, this could mark the beginning of a new phase for United, one where smart recruitment finally aligns with ambition, and where the midfield once again becomes the heartbeat of a team ready to compete in Europe.